Now, every year, millions of people are uprooted due to conflict, climate disaster and political instability. They have to leave their homes and they seek out a new semblance of normality. For this, they have to cross the international borders and many times have to live on the edge. The number of people who are forced to flee from their home countries for safety because of violence, war, persecution and climate change has doubled worldwide in a decade. Now, the latest numbers that have been recorded till the end of the year 2019 have been released by the United Nations Refugee Agency, the UNHCR.
People were resettled in
today happens to be the World Refugee Day. The United Nations has reported a new record of world displacement. The report highlights that more than 1% of the world population now stands displaced. The United Nations Refugee Agency's flagship report shows that an unprecedented nearly about 80 million people have been displaced in the last decade. Now, the report further says that forced displacements now affect nearly about 1 in every 97 people, and the number of returnees is far fewer.
It's, this almost 80 million figure, the highest that UNHCR has recorded since these statistics have been systematically collected, is of course a reason for great concern. This is, by the way, approximately 1% of the world population. We've never reached this very significant percentage.
The war and ethnic, tribal and religious violence are the leading causes of refugees fleeing from their home nations. Despite COVID-19 restrictions slowing down the movement, the figure has risen by nearly about 9 million from a year before and close to double the 41 million mark that had been recorded in the year 2010. Only 5 countries, as per the report, generate about 68% of the world's refugees. Syrians, Venezuelans, Afghans, the South Sudanese and the Burmese top the list of nations from which there is an exodus of refugees. The list of nearly about 80 million refugees and asylum seekers, 73% of the refugees seek asylum in neighboring nations, defying the populist notion that they pour into Western nations. Now, the exodus includes the 5 million Venezuelans who fled from their country that has been presently mired in economic and political crisis. The most Venezuelans have gone to Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil and Chile. Now, the UNHCR report has said that nearly about 107,000 refugees were resettled in third countries last year, with only about 317,000 refugees being able to return to their country of origin. The many displaced populations have failed to find long-standing solutions for rebuilding their lives last year. UNHCR has said that the global trends count all significant displaced and refugee populations, including the 5.6 million Palestinian refugees who fall under the care of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine. And also for the 4th straight year, Turkey has hosted the highest number of refugees. That is about 3.6 million Syrians who have had to flee the civil war in the nation. Now, Colombia has hosted nearly about 1.8 million displaced Venezuelans. Pakistan and Uganda have hosted the 3rd and the 4th largest number of refugees, with 1.4 million refugees each. Now, Germany, interestingly, is the 5th nation with about 1.1 million refugees, where a lot of Syrian refugees and asylum seekers constitute the largest groups. Also, the resettlement to the United States has declined dramatically. Now, UNHCR figures show that Canada has admitted just about 31,000 refugees for resettlement, while the United States has invited just about 27,500, while Australia has invited about 18,200 people. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged support for refugees and their host communities. Guterres has asked the international community to work to re-establish the integrity of the international refugee protection regime so that refugees and host communities receive the support that they need.